When taking into consideration the oldest space marines, Warhammer nerds such as ourselves usually think of dreadnoughts. As you know, space marines who suffered fatal wounds hundreds or thousands of years ago and were confined to a dreadnought sarcophagus live very long lives, because not only are they much harder to destroy now that they are dreadnoughts, but also because they spend most of their existence in deep stasis, a type of dormant sleep causing them to age very slowly. So who is the oldest if we leave dreadnoughts out of the equation? Well, there is someone, and a mighty cool one at that. A figure who lived for over 1500 years without being a dreadnought, who has been chapter master for exactly 1100 years, and who has earned the respect and admiration not only of the Imperial people, but also of many other chapter masters. Commander Dante. Born in the 447th year of the 40th millennium on Baal Secundus, Dante's full name is Louis Dante. Having endured a very difficult childhood, Dante was physically frail as a young man due to malnutrition and high doses of radiation exposure caused by the atmosphere of Baal Secundus. His mother died giving birth to his stillborn sibling, so he was raised by his father, Arius. Due to dangerous wild animals, constant raids and attacks by rival tribes and clans, and extremely harsh natural conditions, life expectancy for someone like Dante on Baal Secundus was very low. Yet, despite his extremely disadvantaged physique, Dante always had an inherent drive to help others and make a difference around him. Despite his father's objections, he ran away from home to apply for the Blood Angels recruitment trials. Although the selection trials were extremely difficult and deadly as they were, Dante faced a tougher challenge on the journey to the trial grounds. Tired and dehydrated from the long trek over Baal's wastelands, Dante was waiting to die after days of walking. His water supply exhausted and perhaps hours from death, he saw a vision of Sanguinius, the Primarch of the Blood Angels, showing him a path. Following the path shown to him by Ghost of the Primarch, he found a mummified corpse in a secluded spot, along with jugs full of water. This allowed him to reach the Blood Angels trials exhausted but alive. Although he did not excel in the trials, Dante managed to survive his exhaustion and frailty and became a novice Blood Angel recruit. It was at this point that Dante began to be noticed by those around him. Every Blood Angel recruit undergoes bioengineered transformation, while also drinking blood distilled from Sanguinius' gene seed. After drinking this blood, Dante falls into a coma that lasts a full year. During this year-long slumber, he raves about the names of long-dead Primarchs, ancient heroes, dark gods, and demons vanquished thousands of years ago. Dante, who began to attract the attention of the Order's sanguinary priests, awakens from his coma as if nothing had happened. Having completed his ascension into a space marine, he begins his training to become a true space marine legionnaire and quickly rises to the rank of sergeant. In the 773rd year of the 40th millennium, Dante is promoted to captain and begins commanding his own company. Dante actively participates in the Callius uprising fought towards the end of that millennium and becomes the only company commander to survive that campaign. At this point, the chapter's chaplains and sanguinary priests gather and agree that Dante should be the next chapter master. After becoming chapter master, Dante's legend quickly began to grow and spread. Emerging as a wise, disciplined, and strategically brilliant leader, Dante is known for instantly recognizing the slightest opening given by his enemies and using it to his best advantage against them. He stands out not only for his strategic mind, but also for his near-perfect fighting skills. So much so that in most of the most important battles of the 41st millennium, Dante is either the commander-in-chief or high up in the chain of command. Despite this, he is known for commanding from the front lines. So much so that if you are looking for Dante in a combat zone, you only need to look where the fighting is most intense. Ultima Maceria, the liberation of Canau, and the Second War for Armageddon saw him not only brilliantly commanding the Imperium's armies against the enemy with ingenious tactics, but also inspiring the hearts of the Emperor's loyal warriors, who fought like angels adorned in gold on the front lines, helping them to victory. Of course, Dante's 1,100 years of leadership of the Order is not limited to his successes on the battlefield. Every member of the Blood Angels has been under the yoke of the Red Thirst since the time of Sanguinius. All Blood Angels are prone to this and must consume human blood in order to remain strong and rejuvenated. However, Dante resisted the Red Thirst for a considerable amount of time. As days and months went past and Dante did not drink blood, he grew weak and frail. His skin aged and wrinkled, and his hair turned gray, which is unusual for a space marine. When Baal was invaded, Dante was weakened and his mind clouded, making it difficult for him to organize the defense. Ultimately, when he realized that this bloodlust was a burden he had to bear to defend his homeworld and the Imperium, he took up the blood-filled chalice once more. In essence, he does not surrender to the Red Thirst. He does it because the Imperium needs him, and he needs blood to protect the Imperium. All these victories and sacrifices have made Dante a living legend, not only within other chapters, but also among the Imperium's ordinary citizens. This is significant because with the vast worlds and countless trillions of citizens, most people never see a single space marine in their lifetime. For some, space marines are nothing more than fairy tale heroes, except for Dante. his legend and prowess known to all. During the Second War for Armageddon, the Salamanders and Ultramarines command echelons unanimously called for Dante to lead the campaign, and he led the Imperial forces to victory. So much life, so much war, and so much death certainly come at a price. Dante's famous quote clearly reveals the terrible price he had to pay and his acceptance of it. "I have passed through ages mortal minds cannot comprehend, and I shall persevere even after they have perished and turned to dust." Think about the weight of a life spanning over 1,500 years, 1,100 of which were spent carrying the burden of commanding not just 1,000 space marines, but millions of soldiers fighting on many fronts of the Empire. Add to that the horrors he witnessed with his own eyes on the battlefield and the wounds he suffered, and you can see how great burden Dante carries each and every day. There is only one thing that keeps Dante, who believes he has lived too long, from sinking into weary indifference. In visions seen by Primarch Sanguinius 10,000 years ago, it was prophesied that in a final battle that would eclipse all others, a warrior clad in gold would stand between the Emperor and his enemies, protecting the Imperium. For generations, the Blood Angels had interpreted this as Sanguinius's famous duel with Horus in the Vengeful Spirit, but Dante interpreted the prophecy differently. Believing that the duty to protect the Empire would fall upon his shoulders when the fateful hour came, Dante accepted this dutifully in his heart and did not surrender his mind to the weariness of 1,500 years. If the duty to protect the Emperor fell to him, he would gladly perform it. Dante's visions were all but confirmed in the Devastation of Baal. The Blood Angels and all of their successor chapters gathered to defend their home systems against the Tyrannid Hive fleet Leviathan. This was the largest gathering of space marines that descended from the angel since Sanguinius commanded the entire legion during the Great Crusade and Horus heresy. Under Dante's command, there were around 30,000 space marines, including the Blood Angels, Flesh Tearers, Blood Drinkers, Blades Carmine, and Knights of Blood, who had taken up positions to defend Baal, Baal Primus, and Baal Secundus against the Hive fleet Leviathan. Demonstrating his strategic genius once again, Dante organized the chapters, rallied the defenders, and led a valiant defense against Hive fleet Leviathan. But the swarm was so immense that despite the losses inflicted on it, its sheer numbers were enough to darken Baal's sun. As Sanguinius's sons, fighting heroically against the onslaught, seemed poised to lose, Dante once again threw himself into the front lines and killed the Tyrannid's Swarmlord, the command node of the Hive mind on the battlefield, in single combat, but was himself severely wounded in the process. Bleeding, drifting towards death, he sees an image of his ancestor Sanguinius. Believing his 1,500 years of perseverance to be over, Dante begs his Primarch to take him with. But the vision of Sanguinius tells him his duty is not done and that he must continue to live, to endure, and to fight. Meanwhile, as Dante is miraculously brought back to life, the Ultramarines and the Indomitus Crusade fleet, under the command of the recently revived Robout Guilliman, enter the system and attack the Tyrannid Hive fleet from behind, routing the enemy. Asking him to address himself as an equal due to his bravery and loyalty, Guilliman bestows upon Dante the title of the Savior of Baal and Lord Regent of Imperium Nihilus, the imperial systems that lost contact with the Astronomicon after the fall of Cadia. Accepting his new duties, Dante undergoes the Rubicon procedure to become a Primaris Space Marine. Dante's heroics and legend do not end there. The Blood Angels and Dante, who were actively involved in the Arcs of Omen campaign, played a major role in repelling the enemy. Not only that, but during the campaign, Dante was the first Space Marine to discover Lionel Johnson's return and personally reported this to Robuta Guilliman. Now there were two Primarchs defending the Empire. During the same campaign, the Blood Angels, clashing with the forces of Chaos, encountered the demon prince Angron. Dante and a few heroes stood against Angron, who slaughtered everyone in his path, but this was a futile attempt since no matter their numbers, they would always be outmatched by a demon prince Primarch. Just as Angron was about to deliver the final blow to Dante, who was once again prepared to die heroically, the Lion intervenes. Angron, caught aback by the arrival of his long-lost brother, is defeated and banished back to the Warp, and the Arcs of Omen campaign ends in victory for the Imperium. Dante's story is written in the history of the Imperium up to this point, but his mission is not yet complete, including the prophesied final Great War. Though weary, aged, and the longest living and longest enduring chapter, Master Space Marines, the desire he felt as a child in the salt deserts of Baal Secundus to protect the weak and make a difference for those around him is still a vibrant spark after 1,500 years. This, in my opinion, is why Dante has returned from death more than once. Not because he wanted to live, but because he was compelled to fight and to serve. Like his gene father Sanguinius 10,000 years ago, the chapter master of the Blood Angels wears golden armor. On top of this armor, Dante wears a golden masked helmet said to be modeled after Sanguinius's facial expression when he learned of Horus's betrayal. This radiates Sanguinius's fury, and its golden aura strikes fear into the hearts of the Emperor's enemies. This helmet is called the Death Mask of Sanguinius. Dante always carries the same two weapons. In one hand, he wields the Perdition Pistol, an extremely complex plasma pistol, and in the other, he carries the Axe axe mortalis, a battle axe forged by the legendary Blood Angels blacksmith Matriculus in the years following the Horus Heresy and used by all Blood Angels chapter masters ever since. Dante has sent countless enemies of the Emperor to their graves with this axe, be they demons, Xenos, or heretics. Both weapons were modified to fit Dante's size after he became a Primaris, making them even more deadly. But this is not the only feature that sets Dante apart. Dante is the only chapter master to currently carry a jump pack. This rocket-powered jump pack, acquired during his early days as a sergeant serving in assault squads, allows him to leap into the thick of enemy forces, crashing into dozens of foes with a terrifying roar. Frankly, I thought Dante would be a very complex and difficult character to describe, and that he wouldn't be very interesting since he's not a Primarch or someone who escaped heresy. But as I compiled my notes, my admiration for him grew and grew, just like the Imperiums. I hope you enjoy this video. Please keep mentioning the topics and characters you want me to talk about in the comments. For this video specifically, please mention which aspect of Dante impressed you the most. Maybe we can start a good discussion?